Welcome back, my bipolar rollers. Today we're going to talk about conflict you may have with someone with bipolar disorder. If you have someone in your life that you're close to that has bipolar disorder, you might want to consider that a manic or depressive episode may not be a helpful time to have a difficult discussion. But that doesn't mean you must completely avoid conflict with a loved one with bipolar disorder. So we're going to talk today about dealing with conflict. Conflict can be a usual part of relationships with others, and to some degree, a little arguing from time to time may even be healthy in a relationship. But for someone with bipolar disorder, the highs of mania and the lows of depression can sometimes lead to increased conflict and arguments with loved ones. So if you have a loved one with bipolar disorder, expressing your thoughts and feelings during conflicts can be natural, but many times arguing with a bipolar person may worsen the situation. So I want to cover several strategies that you can use to communicate in a healthy way with a friend, family member, or partner with bipolar disorder. So, should you argue with someone with bipolar disorder who's having a manic or depressive episode? Well, living with bipolar disorder may often mean experiencing a lot of ups and downs for the person with the mental health condition and those close to them. During a manic episode, a person might experience extreme emotional highs, racing thoughts and speech, sensations of grandiosity and invincibility, a lack of need for sleep, a desire to engage in behaviors that may have harmful effects. And that's just the manic episodes. During a depressive episode, they may experience sensations of sadness or hopelessness, increased social withdrawal, a loss of interest in activities, changes in sleep or appetite, difficulty with memory or concentration, and then there's the thoughts of death or suicide. From the outside, the thoughts, feelings, and behaviors someone experiences during a manic or depressive episode can be difficult to understand. So when a family member or friend with bipolar disorder engages in behaviors you don't agree with or says hurtful words, for example, it can cause conflict. However, arguing with someone having a manic or depressive episode isn't usually a healthy way to communicate with them. When someone's in a manic episode, it can cause them to feel irritable or angry or even twist their sense of reality. Arguing with a loved one experiencing mania may not help them see your point of view and can even worsen the situation. And then, during a depressive episode, it's common for people with bipolar disorder to find communication difficult. Depressive episodes may often leave people feeling sad, hopeless, and indifferent, and an argument with a loved one can worsen those feelings. So, you want some tips for healthy arguments? Just because someone close to you has bipolar disorder doesn't mean you have to avoid conflict with them, but there are healthier ways to approach conflicts when they arise. Here are some tips on how to do that. Number one, you want to avoid judgment. When you're in a heated argument with someone in a manic or depressive episode, you may find judgment seeping in. But instead of judging them or the situation, stick to the facts. Here's how this behavior made me feel and why it's unacceptable. This approach can foster a non-judgmental environment for your friend or loved one while holding them accountable for their actions. It's important to communicate effectively. It can be difficult to communicate your thoughts and feelings when you're angry, but it may be easier to solve conflicts if you can approach the situation calmly. If you have difficulty expressing yourself without raising your voice, clenching your fists, or pointing your finger, consider taking a step back. Take a walk, get a breather. By removing yourself from the situation and giving yourself a chance to calm down, you can communicate your feelings better. It's also important to practice compassion. Compassion is usually important in our relationships with others, and it can be an especially helpful trait to practice during conflicts or arguments. So when someone has bipolar disorder, it can be hard to remember that some of their words or actions result from their condition. It's hard not to take that stuff personally, but you can still hold them accountable for their actions while also making space for compassion towards what they experience. It's important to set boundaries. Boundaries can be essential to a healthy relationship, but it can sometimes be difficult to set boundaries with someone with bipolar disorder. We often cross boundaries, if you hadn't noticed. If you want to improve your communication with a friend or family member with bipolar disorder, consider sharing your boundaries with them. Give them the space to respect them, but let them know there are consequences if they don't, including possibly leaving the relationship. You also want to offer encouragement. Bipolar disorder recovery can be a long journey that involves trying different therapies, medications, and approaches to find what might work. I had quite a long journey myself, and it took quite a while to figure out what worked and what didn't. As for your loved one, When they navigate recovery, it may take time to recognize and change the behaviors that bipolar disorder can cause. Whenever possible, try to offer grace, encouragement, and support during conflicts, especially if your loved one actively takes steps to communicate better. So, let's talk about coping with hurtful words said during the episodes. Because during a manic or depressive episode, someone with bipolar disorder may lash out by saying hurtful words or performing hurtful actions. And even if you know that these behaviors result from a mental health condition, it can be hard not to take them personally. One way to look after your mental health during these times is to contact a trained mental health professional. A therapist can offer a safe space to express your feelings and share tools and advice for communicating in a healthy and effective way. It's also important to recognize the difference between healthy arguments and abuse. Even if your loved one has a mental health condition like bipolar disorder, abuse, whether verbal, physical, or otherwise, is never okay. So, let's talk about takeaways from this whole spiel that I've given you. While conflict can be natural in almost in any relationship, getting into a heated argument with someone with bipolar disorder can sometimes worsen the situation. If you frequently find yourself arguing with a friend, partner, or a loved one with this mental health condition, it can be beneficial to practice healthy communication techniques instead. If you think you'd benefit from professional help, a relationship counselor or a couples therapist can offer even more support. So that's something to think about. I don't have a lot of good things to say about relationship counselors and specialists in that regard, especially dealing with bipolar disorder. But there is plenty of help online, and even calling a support line may offer you some helpful advice. Thank you for once again tuning in to our channel, and I hope you got something from these videos. And as always, please like and subscribe if you want to support the content that I provide. Thank you, Bipolar Rollers, and as always, represent.